This week on the Bureau podcast, we're at the Studio Saigon and we chat about what's got us excited in F&B in Saigon since our last episode, and we chat about the changing skyline of Saigon and cocktails with two experts who know it all. Are you ready?
Yeah,
we're ready.
Let's get into it. Okay. Hello and welcome. I'm Matt Cowan, the Bureau Chief and host of the Bureau podcast. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm joined again by a lady who's our designated driver.
Yep, I just have to work on that license.
The Bureau's Chief Content Manager and Party Whip, Melanie Kasul. Hi, Mel.
Do we have like a sound effects for a whip?
Put that.
Yep.
And making his debut on the Bureau podcast today is the bartist, Richie Fawcett. Welcome, Richie.
Is that a swear word? It is.
The bartist.
Isn't it? You're the bartist, yeah.
Yeah, you are a bit of a bartist.
I know. I've been
I'm
told.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining the show, guys. It seems you've got nothing better to do on a wet Saigon morning than to join me.
No.
I have. Yeah.
Hang on, you live here. We had to.
Yeah. I'm actually working, but you guys are in the way. So can we clear this one up ASAP?
Oh, thanks a lot for the hospitality. So Mel, we'll cut Richie out of this one.
Cool.
How about this place? Last week, Fresh Catch Vietnam. This week, the Studio Saigon. Where to next episode?
I don't know, but I really like this place. I'm digging this place. It's a gallery up front, a speakeasy at the back.
Bullshit corner in the corner.
That's right.
Where, I don't know, Richie.
There's a queue.
What do you do?
We've got a fireplace.
Yeah,
We've got
awesome.
an aquarium.
Yep.
What else can you ask for?
I know.
Cocktail.
That's what we forgot.
That's right. Yeah.
Crap. Okay. We're always on the hunt for locations, but I've got to say this one is awesome, isn't it, Richie? This is where you. This is where we can find you most of the time.
This is where you can find me asleep on the couch most times, and if I'm not, then I'll be asleep on the other couch.
You'd have to kick that cat off though. That's sitting.
It's
over
not
there.
that cat. It's Whiskey the cat.
It's a real cat.
Whiskey.
It's a real cat.
All right. Does it molt?
Only when you stroke it vigorously.
Okay. Well,
There's a bald patch.
Okay, we better move on from pussies and molting and bald patches. Mel, this past couple of weeks has been a busy one for us.
Very busy.
Quite a few invites to things.
Mm-hmm.
The one I can think of right now is the Richie. The Dot Mag party, which was an awesome one there. Thanks to David Kay.
That's the Morse code magazine, isn't it, for enthusiasts? ... Yeah.
It was a really good one. I saw you there, Richie. You were there.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, my body double. Yeah, was there. And I thought it was awesome.
It's really good.
The early doors, actually, very early doors, like before it was open.
I tell you what, I've never been to a party where the free flow lasted until 9:30. It's amazing.
But then they did the chop on the neck up, done. Yeah. Richie was well and truly gone by then. Yeah.
Out of the door, literally.
Out the door.
Yeah. Dragged.
Also,
No
Mike
whistling.
and I, Mike's not here today. He got stuck in traffic, but we went to the 12 Hands truffle dinner.
Ooh.
We got
How many fingers is that?
truffle.
Oh, that's math question.
Actually, there were 2 hands missing.
Oh.
On the night. Yeah, there were only 5.
Got caught in the
actually.
oven.
Were they in the pie?
I don't know.
Hand in the pie.
They only told me that after I'd eaten.
The question is, did they wash their hands?
And did they leave the rings on?
Oh God. Yeah. Anyway, that was pretty Richie. Apart from the Dot Mag gig,
Gone.
Did you,
Gone or coming up?
Oh well, up to you. Yeah.
It was a beer place, craft beer place. It's Pasta Street.
Oh, that one.
yeah.
Oh, I think I've heard of that one.
Yeah, that opened up on Late Anton, I think it is. Yeah, diagonally opposite Lucene.
Yep.
And that's very nice little location.
Yep.
Pretty central. Pretty busy.
I heard they have nice interiors too.
Yeah, very nice blue walls actually. Yeah, very nice blue walls.
Very
And
modest, isn't
comfy
it?
seats as well. Yep.
Okay, then let's drop straight into our first segment, shall we? It's a regular one called Get Excited, Richie. Okay, you get excited quite a bit, so you fit into this segment. It's a segment where we tell each other what bar, restaurant, cafe, drink, trend, event or food we should all be getting excited about in Saigon. I think I might go first. Are you okay with
Go
that,
ahead.
guys? Yeah? Okay, cool. Well, I'm pretty excited about a couple of things this week coming up. They'll probably be done and dusted by the time we get this thing edited and,
let's
and
try.
out there, I suppose.
Let's try to
of course,
edit stuff.
I'm talking about the Hua Beer Festival, just over there at the Ho Chi Minh City Youth Cultural Centre, which is on Friday night and all day Saturday. That'll be pretty awesome. So there's going to be like 40 vendors there, I think, and 25 craft beer joints and lots of entertainment, food.
Hot dogs.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure about
you would
that.
expect plenty of beards. So I see
Beards.
you've got
Or beers?
Yeah, lots of
beers
hair.
and beards.
Oh, hairy. Okay.
That could be the name of our
Beards and
craft
beers.
beer.
Yeah.
What are we doing this for?
Beers and beards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we better copyright that.
So there'll be plenty of both over there for that. Looking forward to that. I think that's going to be the biggest one yet in Saigon. So
Are you going, Richie?
I think I'd probably drop in. Yeah, it's around the corner, so
Yeah.
say hello and see
think-
what's going on. Check out the fried onions stand.
Ooh.
No, there's always a fried onion stand,
Is
isn't
this
it?
where
Beer
you're going to
festival.
bring in your fart joke?
Save that one. I'm
save
holding
it
it in.
Don't use up all your jokes and tricks just yet.
Yeah, there's quite a few, so don't worry about that.
But yeah, the bureau is going to be there. We're doing a video, of course, with Alex, who's
Yay!
filming
Hey,
this
Alex.
thing. So we've dragged him into the fold as well.
I didn't notice
that'll be-
Alex. Oh, it's Alex.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I thought it was a cardboard cutout there that you had, Richie. Yeah. And we can't forget the ciders as well in those beer festivals.
Yeah.
They get kind of left out a little bit. There's going to be Saigon cider there, Hanoi cider. So if you're into your cider drinks, that'll be good. No cocktails though, Richie.
No.
I'm
That's
into
a different event.
ciders, and I think I saw that in booth number 3, Saigon Cider
Okay.
is there, and booth number 6 and 8. Oh, 6 to 8. Wow. They've got 6, 7, and 8. 3 booths.
they're gonna be-
Sea Brew Master. They have
Good numbers.
something. Yeah, they have something called acerola cherry cider. What is that? Is that like the Vietnamese cherry that you see around here?
Don't know.
Like, yeah. Well,
That's
I'm
good enough reason
excited
to go
to-
along and check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Check
not
it
a
out.
huge cider drinker, but what did you say? Areola.
that's a different body part.
Acerola.
Yeah.
What is that, Richie?
Acerola.
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 Sounds Japanese.
Okay.
Could be. Yeah. But it's a growing category, right? Yeah, it's cider.
Oh, definitely.
Not the cherry
yeah.
cider category
No.
of the category, but
Yeah, I
the
noticed that
cider category
Saigon
is growing a lot. Yeah.
And Saigon cider is exporting
Yeah.
somewhere, I think to Europe or
Yeah.
something like that.
It's not just
So-
Strongbow anymore, is it?
Yeah,
No.
which is great. That's on from 6 p.m. Friday, this Friday night.
What are you looking
until
forward
10.
to?
Well, actually, look, I'm a huge fan of Heart of Darkness's
Yeah?
beer, and they've just got this one out recently called the Mistress IPA.
So
So,
you're looking forward to catching up with your mistress?
Yeah, it's. A
I've heard you had quite a few
It's a. I dabble.
pints.
It's a drink that you can have without feeling guilty. I suppose you can have the mistress in public and have a mistress in your hand. Yeah.
I think,
You're supposed to laugh there, Rich.
two mistresses in public, one in each hand. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
right.
Double fisting.
Wow. Sounds like a good night out, actually.
What else is going on this weekend?
Thanks, Mel, for jumping in there. The Saigon Gin Festival.
Okay.
Yeah, that's on at the Caravel on Saturday, right, Richie? All
That's
day
right.
Saturday.
Yeah,
I think
4 till 11, I think it is.
4 till 11. That's
Wow.
if you can stay standing.
Yeah, it's got master classes. There's, I think there's 28 bars, 28 bartenders, Saigon's finest. They'll be mixing up their gin drinks. There's no vodka, by the way, guys. It's
Gin.
different event, just gin, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. 14 gins or something like that. Yeah.
All the bartenders trained by you, of course.
No, none of them actually. Yeah, I'll be there though. I'll be drawing a picture on a table.
Oh, cool.
I won't be making any drinks now.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
you'll be drawing.
I will, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be drawing a crowd. Yeah,
Yeah.
literally. No, really.
Okay, so plenty for foodies to check out this week. And remember, if you choose to check them out for yourself, as usual, tell them the Bureau sent you. Well, I'm sure you can hear that in the background. There's all sorts of crap going on. Well, if you're living in Saigon, this guest today needs very little introduction. He joined us earlier before, but you probably didn't know this. He has a degree in Egyptian archaeology from University College London. I'm not sure where he bought that. Specialising in underwater archaeological photography and ancient shipwrecks. Then he became a photographer for well-known publications such as FHM, Loaded, Mixmag and DJ magazines in the mid to late 90s. Showing your age there, Richie. After which he spent a few years cruising the Caribbean and Pacific, as you do, as a cruise ship photographer, before a spectacular stuff-up ended his photography career. I love that story.
Not going to tell it now, but that was not the first and only stuff up in my career.
Which led him back to London and its emerging cocktail scene, where he worked, or kind of worked, for Roger Moore.
Yes, that's correct.
Richie Fawcett, that's only up to the early 2000s. There's plenty more. We can talk about that another time. Welcome back to the show again.
Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing up my previous career of diving on a few wrecks.
And my other guest sitting right alongside me here today has a PhD in architecture from RMIT University in Melbourne and 2 master's degrees in architecture, one from the Southern California Institute of Architecture and the other from Columbia University in architecture, historic preservation. Okay. These days he's a design principal at HTAP Architects here in Saigon. Geez, where was I when all the brains got handed out? Dr. Hoanh Tran, thank you for joining us.
I'm not used to be called doctor. When I got my degree, my children actually tease me and call me, can we call you Dr. Tran now? Since we already have another Dr. Tran in the house, in the family.
Oh, really?
Who's my brother. And I say, well, he's a physician. So I say, well, he's the real doctor.
So what can we call you? Dr. Tran, Dr. Hoanh, Dr. Tran, Tranny?
Just call me Hoanh.
Okay, Hoanh. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Love. Dr. Love, right?
I'm going overboard with this applause button, I tell you what. I've been wanting to chat to both of you for a while about Saigon's changing skyline. Of course, Richie, you've documented the change with your recent Cloud9 project, which features the progressive increase of the tallest buildings in Saigon over the decades. How much has this city changed in that regard? And I suppose, where's it headed based on what you've seen over the past decade you've been living here?
Okay. So the Cloud9 project is a collection of architectural documentation from the last 8 years that I've been here drawing. And in a way, I've actually focused on the towers that have appeared on the skyline, in that time, going from obviously the Basilica, which is the oldest, and going through to Landmark 81. In a way, maybe I should have done it in reverse and actually focused on the buildings that are actually now not in the city, that have been taken away, which is also, that's a subject that obviously I'm very passionate about. So in a way, it's almost like the city's evolving, and it's always been evolving since its founding 300 plus years ago.
Right.
So I think the actual modern day Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City is going through another metamorphosis that it did when the French came here to develop the city from Pré Nacor, which is going on from Gaidin and obviously going back in history further. But in the first wave of redevelopment, where the street plan of District 1 is exactly the same, in the layout now as it was in 1859.
So the layout is the same, did you say?
Oh, District 1.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
It's pretty almost, the streets have, the streets are still in the location of the streets. It's just the blocks and the buildings that are occupied, that, obviously the areas in between that are changed and becoming less and less common of the original buildings. But in that way, that I'm trying to say is that, with the first transition from marshland, reclaimed land that was unusable in the first stage of development, now is going through a second stage in another way,
right.
which should be understood in the development and the continuation of the city, because obviously it's growing and it's getting higher. So yeah.
Fun.
Well, I want to pick up on the word evolution that Richie just used, which is a very important word. City evolves, right? So cities, to many people, a lot of researchers compare cities as organisms. So as organisms, cities grow, and there's no good reason to stop it from growing. So cities are not something to be frozen in time.
Right.
And Saigon actually has been developed in a very good pace. Like Richie explained, it was 300 years old. The framework was designed by the French government. And even through the war, the framework of the city hasn't been changed that much.
Right.
It's been replaced often on here and there, but not totally obliterated, right? So what we're seeing here is actually a little bit of a worry for me, because it's not like we should be anti-evolution. We should be careful at looking at what's being replaced and at what pace. So what I want to mention is the pace of change is what worries a lot of us.
Right.
We want it to be changed. We want it to be developed. We want it to be evolved, like I said earlier. But when you change things, the price you pay is to take down the existing, to replace it with something new, and so it's basically a value judgment. Huh? So whatever you replace, you make a value judgment, and then whatever you put new, you make another value judgment. As designers, you're supposed to do something better, right? So I'm not against high rises. I'm not against tall buildings. We've done a few in our career here, but we do it depending on the scales, right? But like I said, it's important to pay attention to what's already here,
right?
And not go overboard.
So, what are some of the factors that you take into consideration when your company is designing a new building to fit into
definitely
this environment?
Fit in. That's the word. So the context. A lot of things should be contextual. Even though there are many beautiful things that are not contextual, but most of the time, as a rule of thumb, we design according to our context.
Right.
And context, not only physical context, but also cultural context, the way people live, the way people behave, the way people work, the way people play.
Yep.
So it's not physical only.
Is there a building that you guys have designed that immediately comes to mind where you go, we did a great job on that?
Well, recently we haven't done many buildings in the context. A lot of our new buildings are actually out of town and not. But a lot of our interior jobs are inside the city, and we can easily say that most of them are the context was considered when we designed. We did a few small ones inserted within a historic building.
Right.
Just as Gallery Quinn, we did that a long time ago, and that's in a historic building that's about to be torn down. We did the Maru project in that Art Deco building.
Right. Okay.
So a few more, but yeah, we pay attention to the context, and I think it's a healthy thing.
Right. Okay. Richie, being a mixologist in the past, or kind of
one step in the past, one step in the present.
You've spent a lot of time mixing drinks and streets. Yeah. Most notably releasing a drinks manual called The Cocktail Art of Saigon about 4 years ago or so, with a second edition coming out soon.
Yep, correct.
That manual has 41 different, I think 41 different cocktails in there, named after significant streets and landmarks in Saigon. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how that came about, and the follow-up edition that's coming?
Okay, so with, I guess, my background being ancient history and coming to what I thought was a living archaeological site, when I came here to Saigon for a few years ago, and I realized that actually, at that time, not too many things had actually changed, so I'd had some time to walk around the streets and draw what I saw. And then basically, long story short, over the years, collected quite a big volume of work, which were streets, buildings in the streets, and realised that I could put it all together into a collection of pictures and link them with something else that I do, which is actually I make cocktails, and have done for my living for the last 20 years plus. So it was almost a natural connection between art, history, cocktails, and putting it into context of a modern day bar, which is at the time I was working at Shri on the rooftop in Centec Tower, and then we opened the book as a menu for the bar, and then since then it's been well received wherever it's gone, because it's exposed to a new audience what wouldn't have been exposed to. So drinkers of cocktails were not really interested in history or art, and then vice versa. People that like history and art, would probably not drink a cocktail. So it's connecting two worlds like that. And I think in a way that that whole thing. Again, we talk about Saigon reinvention, and only a few weeks ago, in July, we were involved in a week, Saigon Reinvent Week, which was held in Tung Working Space.
Right.
And partner of Hoang basically was involved with with that event, and then we discussed about the city, discussed about the reinvention or the metamorphosis, which we were just talking about,
right?
And essentially, the way that the city has invented itself in pace with the demands and the needs of the people living in it,
Right.
And I think that's what's reflected in the book.
Yep.
And volume 2 will be continuing that story.
When's that coming out?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, I think in the next month or so.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah,
okay.
We're in September now, so it's probably October will be the launch date for that. So Volume 2 will have 45 cocktails, which will represent.
I was just about to ask, how many new cocktails?
There'll be 4 new ones because I'm going to continue with the 41 originals that are in there.
Yeah.
And then we will develop that idea where we'll go 45, which will represent 45 years apiece after 1975.
Okay.
Which is the big year next year for the country.
Any sneak preview on what kind of cocktails?
They're more irrelevant.
Give us a scoop.
They're more relevant to what's going on now in the world in a way. So there'll be some more final statements made with the actual contents of the recipe, which will be relevant, as well with the presentation to environmental change and to the actual the needs of more of a kind of final word on what's going on with the planet and the rainforests, so reusing materials, sustainability, not in all of the drinks, but also, not going with something that we need to maybe forget about, which is basically remember the past, but then continue to live in the present and look to the future. And I think that's what, the city encapsulates as well.
Yep. Juan, you once had a regular column in a magazine I was managing editor of, and that's how we crossed paths a few years ago. And I was doing a story on the General Sciences Library down the street here. Remember that? Yeah. Which has a fascinating history in itself as well. I learned a lot about that. And one of the pieces you did in the column, the monthly column that we had, was called Unfreezing Saigon. And I think there's a bit of a correlation between what Richie was saying about, remembering the past, but also moving into the future and perhaps embracing what we've got, and adding value to these places rather than tearing them down. Do you remember that article? Yes. Yeah. Would you like to give us a little bit of a brief recap on that, the main points? And share with us whether you've still got the same opinion or things have changed or not.
I remember that article well. In that article, there are actually two issues. One is about the business of franchise, the restaurants in Saigon or Vietnam, and the other issue that I wanted to stress upon was the urban issue. Is how a city is affected by this kind of business, right? So let me jump to the second one because it is probably more relevant when we talk about the city. When you see a lot of big business coming to a city, I'm talking about McDonalds, I'm talking about KFCs, I'm talking about Walmart, Walgreens, those type of business, they homogenize the city.
Okay.
So when we don't have those kind of business, we actually can preserve the genuine, the authentic identity of a city. So that's why when we see the people like McDonald's and KFCs fail doing their business in Saigon, it's a very interesting point. It proves that Saigon is not ready for being homogenized.
Right.
So we still very different. Saigon is a different city. It has a very unique history. It has a unique identity, and I treasure that kind of identity of a city. And I wish that it stays like that for a while. So urbanistically, the big boxes are not healthy for cities, and it's not actually unique for Saigon. It's everywhere. If you go to Barcelona or even Manhattan, now it turns into big shopping malls, right?
Okay.
So if you keep an identity of a city, you should try to prevent the franchising from happening too fast.
Okay.
Too quickly.
Yeah. KFC and Jollibee, I think, Mel. They've been here for quite a while. They've sort of they've done fairly well. But you mentioned McDonald's, I think, was one. I think there are a couple of Subway is another one. Oh?
Carl's Jr.
Carl's Jr. They haven't really survived. Is that related to how they've tried to force their way into the market, do you think, or is it a food thing? Is it a burger thing as opposed to, because KFC and Jollibee has a lot of chicken, and we know that in Vietnamese cuisine, fried chicken is, believe it or not, a big part of the cuisine here.
I think it's the volume of the actual outlets. So I think in the way that also Starbucks, don't forget,
Starbucks.
Their policies are to take street corners. So basically, any street corner that is in District 1 is a target for those kind of corporations to take over, and they've opened and closed, and consequently they've discovered that the let's just say the sustainability of X number of outlets within the urban space of Saigon is just not able to support those number of outlets, obviously. So so there is maybe room for one, let's say branded burger chain joint, in District 1 or 2, but that's about it. They've got to be very different locations, and to have one, literally on every other block is not going to work, and they've found out to their cost because they've opened and closed their own outlets. So it's interesting to see, how they've changed their policy according to obviously where they've lost money. There's not enough customers.
Yep.
And the idea of franchising is also related in an interesting way to gentrification. So when you have a lot of these big businesses doing well in a city, they would displace everybody else because they can afford to pay rent on these expensive premier lots of land, and all the local businesses are displaced. So and then that's the start of gentrification.
Right. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but last March in Hanoi and this coming 10th and 11th of September in Ho Chi Minh City, an event called Heritage Preservation and Economic Development is taking place. The Consulate General of Italy in Ho Chi Minh City is holding this with ICHAM and SCE Project Asia. The event has a series of workshops and seminars for students, academics, technical teams, real estate firms, business investors, and it's to bring insightful knowledge of heritage preservation in in Saigon and in Vietnam. So that might be something interesting for listeners to go along to. I think you can find it on Facebook somewhere. They've got a Facebook event. We'll put it on the landing page anyway. But it could be really good for people who are interested in that and concerned about the direction of the city.
It's interesting. I mean, 5 years ago, there wouldn't be an event like that. You know, it's only really recently, I think in the last 2-3 years, that it's really accelerated people's concern about the urbanisation and the change that has been really quite dramatic.
Yep.
You know, and for sure, you know, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, nobody here was really interested or knew perhaps because what was about to happen. Because obviously the overhead MTR has definitely changed the skyline, and then obviously what's happened along Le Loi, going all the way to Ben Thanh, along the route of the MTR, which is 5 years in the works now, and it hasn't actually looked as if anything is moving. It's over schedule, I think, for completion. But these visual scars, are there every day for people to see, and I think that's what people are reacting to.
Okay.
In order to kind of make these events actually happen in the last 24 months or so. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's very encouraging to see the consulate of Italy is organizing something like this, and they have the authority to support this kind of ideas.
Yep.
I think Italy is probably a very good proof. Physical proof that you can see where one can be modern and contemporary in a historic building in a historic cities.
Right.
So I think the Italians know what they're doing when it comes to preservation, and it's good that they are putting an effort to organize something like this. I learned a little bit more online about what's going on with this particular effort. They want to have two different approaches. I think one is for the academics and the students, so they're organizing something at the local university, which is very good to put it in the students' mind, the value of historic buildings, historic architecture. But they're also organizing on a business level, so they're inviting a lot of the investors, developers coming to these seminars, which is also a brilliant idea. It's tricky because investors are profit-driven organizations, so to do something like this, you have to think of a way to attract the investors to preserve buildings. In older cities with older policy making for preservation, there are actually government incentives given to businesses doing preservation. Like in New York, they would give tax incentives to any developers preserving an old building. So they give air rights, they give different incentives. Here we should do the same. And the Vietnamese government has already done that for the educational projects. The health projects get a lot of tax breaks. So I think preservation projects should get the same similar incentives to attract the business. And I think the Italians are on top of it.
Okay.
It's good that they're organizing it.
Interesting stuff. Do you guys have a favorite heritage building that's been repurposed as a boutique hotel, restaurant or bar? Is there one that pops to mind where you think of it and go, this restaurant has been beautifully done here. They've preserved the building to a certain extent. I've got one which is Jardin des Sons. Sorry, my French is terrible. I think it's a modernist residence. I quite like that. You're looking at me with a smile.
I like it.
Oh, you like it? Yeah, it's a really beautiful building. I enjoy eating there. It's nice. It's really.
It used to be Manor de Kai, didn't it? That one.
Yeah, it had a previous life. I'm not sure what it was there. That was really nice. Another one that sort of pops into mind, probably not on that sort of level and a different genre, is that what you call it, of building, is where Octo and Chin Chin is.
Oh, that's beautiful too.
Yeah, they
really
sort
nice,
of
really
Chinese style shop house places that just opposite Patexco there. I really like going into those places. They're beautiful. So on Ho Tong Mao and Villa Royale on Ham Nhi.
That's right.
And of course drinking and healing's in that building as well. Do you guys have any sort of places in mind?
I go to a lot of the more local places, even though the designs are not done to the extent that I would like to see, but there are definitely efforts in many tenants in that building called the Katina building at the corner of Dong Khai and Litichom, just a block from us. And like I said, a lot of tenants do it differently, but in general they keep the buildings. It's a working building,
right?
And that's very well done. Well intended. Yeah, there's another building that I really like. It's with a round circular windows at the corner of Nguyen Yu and Pasteur. There's another 2 blocks away too, and a few businesses and many residents.
You've just reminded me of the one, the Starbucks building actually, the cafe on CMT8 and Dien Bien Phu, is it? No. I can't remember the name of the street, but there's a Starbucks in that building, and it's like a modernist type place on the corner.
Right at the corner.
What's the street?
I forgot the street. And Dien Bien Phu.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a really good one, that one. Yeah. Richie?
I think you just named them all. But
damn it.
Yeah.
Okay. But I was trying to show off.
Maybe, was it... actually, I mean, we didn't talk about Barcelona.
Oh, okay.
No, well, I don't know if buildings would like to have seen be developed into a cultural centre, but there's a couple of warehouses still left in the site, but not as many as I think there should be.
Yep.
Or should have been reviewed on that one.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. Before you go, I've got a gift for each of you. Richie, a book on Italian architecture.
All right, great.
I expect you will display that in a prominent... Well, I can, if you want. I didn't write it, or I didn't do it. I didn't even buy it.
No, where did you steal it from then?
Well, did you know there's a nice new book second-hand bookstore downstairs? So I just grabbed that on the way through this morning.
That's great.
So,
thanks very much.
That might be something for you.
I'm honoured. Thank you.
You two can fight over that. But Juan, I've got one for you. It's a colouring book.
Oh, great.
It's actually the Metropolitan Theatre... in Manila. We went there a couple of years ago. There's a nice... anyway, you two can
Did you
fight
get
over
this
that.
confused?
Yeah.
Well...
we can borrow
I love this.
I'll lend it to you.
Well, maybe you can leave it here and you can come... Yeah.
Thanks, man.
But just make sure you colour within the lines, okay? The next time I see it, I want the colours in there.
I would ask you for help.
You can borrow my crayons, no problem.
Okay, cheers, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mike Colombo has landed from Danang. Thanks for turning up, Mike.
Aloha.
How are you?
Good.
Are you good?
Good, yeah.
Yeah?
Tired.
Tired?
Still a little damp from all the weather over there.
Okay.
The typhoon that just
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
That's a good metaphor for all the tequilas you had at Apocalypse Now up there on the beach.
Yeah.
Hey, how many? 10? I think I
I
got
don't know,
a
you can probably
message.
still smell it on me.
I think I got a message at about midnight.
Yeah.
Saturday night or Friday night saying, this is my town. And then the next day you were like,
Vowels
okay,
missing.
I don't know what it was I was messaging you about.
Well, Richie's making him an espresso right now.
Yeah, nice.
So.
Okay, one of Richie's
Perfect, yeah.
extra strong. He might drop a little bit of something good in there as well.
Yeah. How was Danang, Mike?
It was good. I rented a bike from Hue to Danang. Took about 3 hours.
Nice.
And at the last 20 minutes on the stretch from Miki Beach all the way to South Danang, I got poured on.
Oh, wow.
Is an understatement, but what was the
Sound effects?
Nothing. You don't really need to know about that one. That's my.
I just see the
little joke.
smirk and the button press.
Well, you got to get some headphones.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move into our final segment, which is where we give a shout out to some of the Instagram accounts that we follow in Vietnam and the region. Mm-hmm. Mel, you came up with the goods last week.
Yeah.
And for that, you've earned top billing, so you go first.
Yay!
Who are you following?
Well, I follow my friend Twee, and I guess you guys know
Yeah,
Twee
yeah,
as
we know
well.
Twee, yeah.
Yep.
Twee, a.k.a. at Travel Eat Saigon. That's at Travel Eat Saigon.
Nice.
She has been documenting life, food, and travel around Vietnam since 2011.
Right, okay, nice.
She captures the daily life of ordinary folks, food, architecture, and of course, travel. So, she has this ability to photograph the most common street scenes, but obviously with her own perspective. Her personality shines through with her visuals, and I really like the way she writes the insider captions.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool. That's a really good one to follow. What was it again?
At Travel Eat Saigon.
Okay, nice one. While Mike thinks of his, I might go next.
Oh, I'm ready.
Oh, you're ready? Okay,
Yeah.
fire away.
All right. So, a good friend of mine, Cho, from So Cho channel, lover of all things Insta-worthy,
Oh, yes, yes.
She's really good.
and
I
has an
follow her
iPhone
too.
permanently attached to her hand. Love you, Cho. But yeah, So Cho channel, at her is her at.
Yeah,
Instagram.
yeah, she's everywhere.
Yes,
she
she
is
is.
everywhere. Yep. I don't know how she gets to all those. She seems to get the word as well.
Yeah.
She gets the lowdown on places and gets to them before anyone else. I don't know how she does it. Amazing. Well, I have to give a shout out to our man in Cebu, Jigsaw Giza. He's at Eats So Good. He's our
That's a good
firebrand.
name.
He's our firebrand contributor over there in Cebu. He's always got something to say. He's a journalist turned mechanic,
Oh, wow.
and says he's a good cook, but he doesn't want to turn pro. I don't know. Yeah, so he's a good one if you're thinking about going to the Philippines. And Cebu, of course, Mel, you've got
Yeah.
ancestral roots in Cebu.
Yeah,
It's
my
a
mom
very
and my dad are from Cebu.
Yeah, it's a very foodie part of the world, famous for their lechon. Yeah, Jigs has got very strong opinions on what's street food and what's not. You can read about it on thebureauasia.com, actually, by the way. So yeah, if you're thinking about hitting Cebu, Mike, for your next holiday, hit him up.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I've been just discussing my TET plans recently.
Okay, so let us know if you think we should follow someone on Instagram and give them a shout out for their amazing content about Saigon, Vietnam or Southeast Asia. Remember, we're looking mostly for F&B, lifestyle and travel stories that we and you can check out, controversial or not. We don't care as long as they're interesting. Okay, well, that's just about it for this episode. Thank you for joining me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yay!
Albeit Mike, for 2 minutes. I want to thank
Every minute counts.
I want to thank Richie Fawcett for allowing us into the inner sanctum of the Studio Saigon.
Yay!
I will say, I feel like we're being hunted by tripods in here. We're being surrounded by tripods.
That's a bit more than a golf club, that one. And of course, Dr Hoanh Tran from HTAP Architects for dropping by, or dropping down actually. His office is right above us.
Yeah.
I think he might have a listening piece in this room. I'm pretty certain there he's pointing. He's sitting in the bullshit corner at the moment. We've banished him to the bullshit corner. But thank you, Juan, for dropping by and chatting about your super interesting work.
Thank you.
Okay, so now don't forget to go to our website, thebureauasia.com, for plenty of stories and info about Vietnam and the region. And you can also check us out on Facebook and Instagram. We're at Mike.
At the Bureau Asia.
Nice.
Yeah, he gets the last word. No, I do.